you should remember Ray Avery. He is what I would call an entrepreneurial philanthropist in the field of medicine and medical science. In 2010, Ray Avery was the Kiwi Bank New Zealander of the Year. In 2010, he won the Sir Peter Blake Leadership Medal. In 2011, he was the Ernst & Young Social Entrepreneur of the Year. In 2011, he was Reader's Digest's most trusted person in New Zealand. And in 2011, he was made a Knight Grand Companion of the New Zealand Order of Merit. His work with the Fred Hollows Foundation in sourcing lenses for cataract operations at markedly less cost than was currently available was internationally recognised for spreading good and improving lives around the world. But in recent times, you won't have heard as much of Ray Avery. A few years ago, I and people I have spoken to in the last week or so noted a number of stories appearing in media about him, often involving claims from or people involved with Helen Clark, suggesting he was some sort of shyster, some sort of crook. And if you like, the shine went off Ray Avery. I was never too sure what happened until I saw some posts from Ray Avery on LinkedIn yesterday. Not yesterday, over the weekend. And I rang Ray, who I had met some time ago, and we had a chat. As a result of that chat, I've invited him on the program to tell just part of his story. And Sir Ray Avery joins us now. Ray, you don't mind if I call you Ray? We're not going to go the whole Sir thing night. I don't have to bow or anything, do I?
No, we're all good.
All right, Ray. Look, let's just concentrate on the one issue. You did the stuff with the Fred Hollows Foundation and the stuff involving the lenses. You've been working on another device for undeveloped and developing countries, another medical device that could change lives. In layman's terms, just tell us what it is.
Well, one of the most common problems you have in developing countries is that they use a device, intravenous infusion therapy uses a thing called a roller clamp to adjust the flow of liquids going into your arm. Normally in a first world country, that's only used for rehydration therapy. But in developing countries, it's used for potent drugs like cancer drugs, and children with very low flow rates can't get an accurate control of this device. So I invented something really cool, which is this device. Now, if you compare this...
I'm just reminding you, some people can't see what you're doing, can't see the device, but you're holding up the devices. Yeah. So basically, this allows without expensive, if you like, administering technology, it allows doctors to better monitor and better control the flow of drugs or fluids through an IV drip.
Exactly. Yeah, so it's a much better product. It's reusable. And what we did with the lenses was we collapsed the price from $360 down to about $10. And with this IV system, we can do the same thing and make high quality, accurate infusion available to the masses. And so we come up with that idea. It was tested by Baxter Asia Pacific. They approached us actually when they found out about the device and said, we want to have a look at it. They tried it in hospitals, and then it was so good that the Americans division got involved, and they actually did some trials and validated it and proved that it had better accuracy than an IV drip controller and other devices of single use.
All right. So it is. Does it have a certificate from, like, I don't know, the appropriate authority? It has been, and did you have a patent on it?
We've got global patents, which is unusual, to get a patent approved in so many territories, and that was part of the contract that we had with Baxter. They wanted to patent it in all the developing countries because they could see that there was a market for that. So we did that, and we were ready to launch it and put it on the world stage, and started a company to launch it. And then Newsroom published a story quoting a published paper from the University of Auckland that said that the device didn't work.
Okay, so let's just pause there. Newsroom being the digital online news agency which has a commercial arrangement with many universities around the country where they give Newsroom money and they get to provide their own editorial content. That we should be aware of that. So you're about to go to market. This is a couple of years ago, I understand, or to raise funds so that you can produce and sell this thing around the world and presumably save a few lives. And there's this story that comes out from a study from Auckland University that says the device doesn't work. Was that study peer-reviewed? Who wrote it? And did it actually test your device?
No, what happened was we complained about the publication because it had no relevance to our device. And eventually the publisher, the Cambridge University Press, made the author, Professor John Windsor, add an addendum to the paper saying that this had nothing to do with our device. The device that they tested had nothing to do with our device. Now, the real worry here is that Eloise Gibson, who was the reporter for Newsroom at that time, actually knew that. So
before she published the piece?
Before she published the piece, she knew that was the case. And she still went ahead and published it. So that's the moral issue I have. And the real victim here is not me or my foundation, but the number of people that could be saved by this device in the developing world. And the question we should ask is why? Why would she do that?
Okay. Well, before we go to the why, what impact did that story, incorrect as it was, what impact did that have on your attempts to raise capital to get this project going around the world?
Well, we had probably half of the funds already signed up when we were launching the company. We had spun the company out as a commercial company because we knew that anybody who was going to invest in the company would like to invest in a formal company rather than our charity. The charity owned that company.
Yeah.
We'd done everything right. We had all the regulatory affairs stuff in place. We were ready to go to market. And then when the story broke, the investors all walked away because there was obviously some issue with the evidence, because University of Auckland study had said that it didn't work.
Okay. Did you seek a retraction or a clarification in Newsroom or from Newsroom?
Well, I wrote to Tim Murphy and
let's just clarify, Tim Murphy is one of the editors and founders of Newsroom.
Yes, so I wrote to Tim Murphy and we had a long litany of conversations. We had lawyers involved saying, what you did was wrong and so on, but he continuously refused to do any sort of retraction or admission.
Well, why didn't you sue them for defamation?
Oh, we don't have any money.
Oh, okay, so you couldn't afford. So you're saying you just got stonewalled?
Yeah, we don't defend. Also, we couldn't use donors' money to do that. It's just. So what we have to do now is of course, what's happened is that on Wikipedia, somebody's put that article up onto Wikipedia. So trying to get international funding even for this device is munted.
All right. Have you been to an outfit like NetSafe? Given that Newsroom publish online and they publish damaging information, surely NetSafe would have sorted it out for you.
Well, what happened was that during the following on from the Eden Park concept.
Hang on, back up the bus here, Ray. Now, the Eden Park thing. What's Eden Park got to do with your wonderful device?
Well, what happened was, following on from Eden Park, where we tried to raise money for a lifeboat incubator, the back end of that, we had a tsunami of media articles from Newsroom, about one a week. And then it went on with about 50 articles repeated over the next few weeks, which caused at least one of our staff members to get to a point of, trying to commit suicide. And so I wrote. Hang
on. Are you saying that there was such sustained negative publicity about your organisation from Newsroom that it impacted one of your staff members that severely?
Yeah, that's right. Well, actually two of them, but on this particular occasion, I wrote to Eloise Gibson advising her of that and gave her all the information. And she wrote back and said, I hope you're seeking, clinical advice. And then 2 hours later, she published another article. So she actually knew that she was causing acute mental harm to an individual. So I wrote to NetSafe and showed them all the documentation of all these articles, and they said they thought there was a case to answer. So they contacted Tim Murphy and tried to engage with him, and their job is to broker a relationship between the complainant and the person that's doing the harm. And Tim Murphy told them basically to bugger off. And then he published an article that said, NetSafe washes hands of Ray Avery complaint. And that's my real killer issue, is that people have no voice. That was false and misleading. He walked away from any negotiations, and he knew that he was causing clinical harm, and all of the articles were manufactured and causing harm to getting our products to market. The real victims here, though, Sean, are that lots of people won't get access to good products that can actually save lives.
Ray, what is behind this? What did you ever do to Newsroom? And I've talked to a number of people since I spoke to you over the weekend. He said, what was up with... And they seem to say that somehow Helen Clark was involved in going new in what appeared to be a campaign to discredit and diminish your mana.
Well, I think that's true. There was definitely a connection between... I took on Helen Clark during the campaign to get the concert going. We did a wonderful job. We had Phil Collins organised. We had a telethon of the media people. Eden Park had given us the place for free. It was an opportunity for us to take on the world stage and say, we've got a Live Aid concert to bring low-cost incubators cost $2,000 rather than $40,000.
Oh, this is the incubators. And everyone will remember them on TV and pictures of you with the spacey-looking incubator. That was a big thing in its day.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it's still alive, but it's, the reality is that what happened then was Helen Clark jumped in with a number of other residents and said, because what the mistake I made, Sean, was that I didn't believe that anybody in New Zealand would stop a concert that was going to bring life to kids in developing countries. But I was horribly wrong. And, an ex-Prime Minister stood up and said, we're not going to allow this to go ahead. And allegedly went door knocking and put all these submissions in, which meant that they were going to be so long to be processed that the concert was actually cancelled because we couldn't deliver on it.
But hang on, how do you make any link between Helen Clark and Newsroom?
Well, because what was happening was that on the various Twitter blogs, she was saying constantly, more is coming. So she knew.
Oh, like she was commenting on the Newsroom story saying more is coming against you.
Yeah.
Wow.
So she was talking with Newsroom, and maybe she paid them a few bob, I don't know. But this whole tsunami started because I called her out because she heads up an organisation or part of an organisation in the United States which is specifically designed to look after women and young children. And I thought that it was just inconceivable that she would stop a concert because of a bit of noise on one particular day. And that's when the shit hit the fan. And she's a very,
we need to watch our language. I might just remind you, Sir Ray. Look, okay, so 2 years ago, this stuff happens with Newsroom. They do not print a retraction, though the person who printed the report that supposedly said your product was no good has admitted that he wasn't testing your product. You have a worldwide patent. You have people in need. And I think you explained it to me. In third world countries, if you're getting, say, I don't know, is it chemo drugs, they can't administer them like they do in New Zealand, so they put people on drips, and if the drips are too fast, the chemo drugs kill the patient, right?
That's right. That's right.
All right. Are you back on the market looking for money now to get this project going?
Well, we are. I'm still trying to bootstrap all of the projects because what's happened with the Newsroom tsunami is that our donors have gone to nothing, and I've been bankrolling it out of my own personal funds, mortgaging my house and doing all those sort of things. But we will bootstrap it somehow. I never give in. I never give in. This is too valuable technology right now in the world today. At this particular minute, somebody's having an intraocular lens put in their eye. Somebody's having their healthcare monitored by my technology regarding monitoring healthcare and well-being. And tomorrow morning, a kid will get up and have an Amigo bar and go to school. I do good work, and I think what's happened here is a travesty of justice that people who are involved in politics don't seem to recognise that what they do often is something that harms people in the world at large.
Yeah. Ray, you're not the only person in our current culture who's been cancelled or declared in some way by some unwritten rule unclean or unworthy. What toll has this taken on you personally and on your family?
Well, I've sent my family to Sydney to live because they've all suffered. You know, reading about Dad in a bad way is not a good thing. Even though you've done nothing wrong, unfortunately, shit sticks. And my financial controller is now in a dementia ward. She became paranoid about. She was phoned constantly by people, about the financial. The complaints were placed with the charity services, and there was no case to answer, but 2 investigations were launched by Newsroom Associates, and that caused an immense...
Let us be clear, your charitable organisation was cleared of any wrongdoing or any malfeasance as a result of investigations that were launched at the assistance of Newsroom.
That's exactly right. There was no case to answer, and that related both to our advertising and promotional material that we did for our fundraising and the financial controls. But unfortunately, we're a small community. We're like Gloria Vale in the Pacific, and so it's such a small community that all the shit sticks. But I'm quite resilient. But unfortunately, my kids, my family, my kids were bullied at school. They were called that their dad's a liar, and all these sort of things. So we've done the hard yards. But I have to do this balance between looking after my family and all those people that might have their lives saved by something that I've worked on for years. Sometimes I'm walking down the street in Nepal and a woman will come up to me and say, "You are a god because you've given my son the gift of sight." And it's those small moments that make me realise that you're a good person. And I'm a good person. I don't deserve this shit.
And to clarify, Ray, I want to come back to this. Your organisation's never been found guilty of any malfeasance, misuse of funds. You yourself have never been censured for making false claims or acting unprofessionally in your profession? No. Boy, I'd quite like to get Newsroom, Tim Murphy, who I've known for much of my life, I'd like to get him on to talk about it. And Tim, if you're listening, you're more than welcome to call in and explain why you launched a witch hunt against Sir Ray. So, Ray, if people are interested in investing, in helping you in this project, which is what did we call it? An IVF regulator for developing... Well, who do they get? How do they get in contact with you, mate?
They can just call me up. I'm on LinkedIn, and you can find me on LinkedIn or call me on 0274 760 591.
You got nothing to hide, have you? Hey, the other thing is, I've seen the reason we're talking is that I met you some years ago, and was incredibly impressed by you as a person, somewhat in awe of you. But I've noticed that on LinkedIn you have been sharing this story. Have you hitherto been suffering in silence in terms of this witch hunt against you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've been abused as a kid, and all sorts of bad things have happened to me, and I've always felt that nothing worse could happen. But one of the things that I have as a failing is that I can't watch people that I love hurt. I can take any sort of shit, but seeing my wife and my family destroyed by this, and my PA and financial controller of 30 years and worked with me in Eritrea and Nepal to write SOPs to get the factories going, go into mental depression and finally dementia because of what Newsroom did. It breaks my heart.
Ray, I thank you for joining us this morning. We have got to keep in touch and see how this project goes. And thank you for speaking out. Thank you for standing up and agreeing to come on the program today.
Thank you, Sean, for speaking up, because the biggest problem we have, and we're working in domestic violence in New Zealand, is that people sometimes don't have a voice. and some of the mainstream media don't allow you to have a voice. That's why I've resorted to other media platforms. But what you're doing, I think, not just for my case, but for the other stories you're doing, I think is a wonderful initiative. So thank you.
All right, Ray, take it easy. Sir Ray Avery there, a New Zealander of the Year, a entrepreneur, philanthropist, I think is the best way to describe Ray. Well, what do you think? What do you think of the story he told you of being hounded by one news organisation which published a report, later retracted or corrected? Oh, sorry, their report was based on, but they never said sorry. They never cleaned up their mess. They continued to pursue him and his charitable organisation. I think beyond the pale. Love a call from you, Tim Murphy. Love you to give us a yarn and give us your side of the story. It's a platform for you as well, you know.